Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Brett's Brain. Today we're going to talk about one of the most difficult things you have to do as a founder, and that's fire people. If you're growing a great business, it is inevitable that you're going to have to let somebody go eventually, and it's really hard to do. We did a video with Allison Kopp, the CEO of Artemis, not too long ago, and she said the most important tip she had for founders was become great at hiring and firing. And it truly is important, but it's hard. So here's a couple of tips for you. The first is make sure you know legally what your responsibility is and what you have to do. Talk to your lawyer, understand what process you need to go through in your state or municipality or wherever you are in your jurisdiction. Too many founders, especially of early stage companies with 10 employees, they don't even think about the legal side of it. And they'll let somebody go and they'll get sued later on. And it's not because they necessarily did something wrong, it's because they didn't go through the correct process. And so that can be really tough. So make sure you're going through the right process for both yourself, for the company, and for that employee that's going to have a really difficult life change. Second is if a person that you're letting go is surprised when they get fired, you did not do your job as a manager. Nobody should be surprised that they're let go. If they are, you didn't do things like a performance improvement plan. You didn't do a good job of coaching them and letting them know that they weren't performing up to your expectations. So as soon as you recognize that an employee is underperforming or not hitting what your standards are or the goals that you have set out for them, you need to sit them down sooner rather than later. Don't avoid that conflict. So don't avoid. Sit down with them, let them know that whatever they're doing isn't aligned with what your expectations are for them. And it could just be a communication error. That's step number one. Number two is put down a really specific goal oriented performance improvement plan or a PIP. This is pretty common in enterprises, but early stage startups just don't think about it. But it's a great way to lay out for a potential employee, hey, listen, we're seeing a lack of performance coming from you. And this is what we need to happen. This is where we expect you to be. And let's touch base again in 30 days and have a 30, 60, 90-day review process. And if performance doesn't improve over that time, that employee is going to know. Oftentimes, employees will actually self-select out because they know their performance isn't improving. And it can be really hard, especially if it's a good person. In many cases, you have to let people go because it's a right person, but wrong fit. And if you don't have the ability to put them in a new chair in your organization, which sometimes you just can't do in an early stage startup, you have to let that person go. Remember that it's hard for you and it's equally as hard, if not harder, for the person that's getting fired. So you got to handle it really carefully, be as emotionally intelligent as you possibly can, understand the different processes that you legally have to go through. And then if they're a good person and they haven't actually done anything that is, you know, uh, underhanded or against the law, give them a chance. Make sure that it's not a communication error. Make sure that their goals and objectives have been clearly defined and laid out. Give them a chance to improve their performance first, document everything, and set up some regular check-ins over the next several weeks and months to touch base. And if performance isn't improving, nobody will be surprised when they get let go.